Good morning. Today is Tuesday, April 11, and this is the first day where we are actually going to be doing online assignments. In your calendar, which I gave you, you'll notice it had three assignments showing. Two assignments. One was notes, and then the other one said IXL A.2. So if you, once we get into it, you're going to see that you're actually going to be in the notes section reviewing a video that I have created that is one that teaches you how to do the work for the IXL assignments. So you're going to be taking notes on the video. That's the first assignment that you've got that's in your little calendar, and we'll talk about that in a moment in greater detail. Then after that, you're going to actually go and do the IXL assignment A2, okay, in IXL. And so what you see in the online video presentation tells you how to do the work there. But the graded thing that you're getting under notes is the fact that you've actually written this down in notes, as I'm going to discuss now. All right. So what are you going to be able to do as far as note taking is concerned? Note taking assignment. Notice it says that. You'll be able to reflect on the following lesson that I'm going to be teaching you on the video and take notes on my conclusions in your math notebook. Okay? All right. And then the next thing you're going to do by the end of today, by 11:59 p.m. today, remember 12 o'clock is midnight, by 11:59 p.m. today, you will upload your reflection about what you saw and learned from Mr. Warren's video assignment that we are doing right now. You're going to upload that to Jay Warren's Math Clever page, which I've already told you how to get to. Once you've done that, then you'll have something that I can grade, because I'll look at that, determine, did you do the reflection, did it follow the work, that kind of thing. Okay, and we'll have a rubric to show you how to best go about answering the reflection, and so you kind of know what kind of score you'll get for what you turn out. All right. So one thing that we often work with, in fact, I'm going to ask you to work with, is some kind of a whiteboard. Now, we don't usually have whiteboards at home. I don't. But this work is all going to be based on doing IXL online work. And if you're like me, most of you will have trouble actually trying to do the math in your head. And you'll get frustrated, and you'll stop early and get a low score. You don't want to do that. You want to get the best score you can. And the best way to do that is to write your work down, make sure you understand it, you've gone through the steps, and then you can prove out whether or not you've got the problem correct by looking at what the actual answer is, because IXL will tell you the answer. All right. So what this little whiteboard, is just a piece of paper that's inside a plastic sheet. And you've seen plastic sheets like this before. This one happens to be one that goes into a 3-ring binder. They're really cheap. If you can't find one cheap on your own, I can get you one so that you've got it. And in it you'll put a sheet of paper. Now, the one side is for just doing regular note-taking work. So if I were to write the expression 2x plus 3 and then do some work with it, I can do it on here very quickly, come up with the answer. Let's just say this was the expression you wanted to come up with the answer. You'd write it down, and then you would put it into IXL, check to make sure that it's correct, and if it's correct, fine, then you erase. Okay? Done. If you are doing graphing work, you may want graph paper. So I downloaded this graph paper off the internet and printed it out. You can do the same thing. Again, if you don't know where to find it, or you need some help getting a copy, see me and I will help you with that. Okay, now to the actual lesson that we're doing today. So what I'm doing is I'm going to explain to you what IXL Lesson A2 is about and how you go about answering a question in this area correctly. Okay, that's what I'm doing, and you're going to do the following. You're going to evaluate the variable expressions that have rational numbers in this lesson. And based upon what we've done here earlier, you're going to take notes on it, okay? And then once you've done the work that's in here and take notes on it, that's the material that you're reflecting on. Reflection is basically your conclusion about what you learned, okay? So you're going to tell me, what did I learn, and what's your conclusion about it, okay? And then that's what you upload and you get a grade for. But you will then have gained valuable information, and you're going to use this information as the basis for the work that you're going to do when you actually go to IXL, to its software program, and open up A2 in the Algebra 2 section and start to do the work. Okay, so you're going to evaluate variable expressions that have rational numbers. Notice I've highlighted the key terms in red. And a number that can be made by dividing two integers into each other is a rational number, okay? And an integer is a number with no fractional parts. So in other words, we get two numbers that don't have any fraction to them, and we take those numbers, which are whole numbers or counting numbers, or integers as they're called, and we divide one by the other, and that problem becomes a fraction. So as an example, I've got the number 1. The number 1 is an integer. In other words, it's not a fraction. And then I have the number 2. It's not an integer. I'm sorry, it is an integer, it's not a fraction. Okay? It's an integer and it's not a fraction. But if I take the two numbers, 1, and then I divide them by 2, 1 divided by 2 equals 1 over 2. That is a fraction. And a fraction is a rational number. Okay? So there you have it. Okay? Now, let's go and do the work then. We're going to get an example. So the first example we've got here is we're going to evaluate the following expression for s equals negative 6.8 and t equals 1.9. The expression itself is st plus 5 equals, and then the answer comes after that, after you figure out what it is. We don't know what it is yet, so that's a question mark. So let's understand what evaluate means. And so whenever you evaluate, you are substituting a variable for a number that it is equal to. So when they tell you to evaluate, you're substituting a variable for a number that it is equal to. So here, you will substitute negative 6.8 for s and 1.9 for t in the expression st plus 5. So again, everything's color-coded. The black bold letters, negative 6.8, that's the value for s. The red bolded letters, numbers 1.9, that's the value for t. So you're going to you're going to substitute these values into the expression, and then you're going to use PEMDAS, the orders of operation, to combine like terms and determine then what the answer to this is. So please note that s and t in the expression are right next to each other. This means that the expression is telling you to multiply s times t and then add 5 to the result. Okay? So that's what we're going to do. So here we go. Doing it algebraically. Here's the expression. st plus 5 equals, well, we don't know what it equals something, okay? All right, so we said that s equaled negative 6.8. So we substitute, for s we substitute negative 6.8. For t, we substitute 1.5. And remember we said that st here is really s times t, okay? So knowing that, negative 6.8 must be multiplied to 1.9, and then we add the 5 to it. So now we're going to use, we're going to, let's say it this way, we're going to combine like terms. Okay, because this is an expression, you will be combining like terms, not doing undoing. Undoing is only for equations. This is not an equation yet because we don't have anything on the right-hand side of the equal sign. All right, so you're going to combine like terms with using the order of operations. What's the order of operations? That's the order in which you actually go about combining all these like terms. And the order of operation is done with PEMDAS. So PEMDAS means the following. PEMDAS means, or the P means parentheses. The E means exponent, or exponents. The M means multiplication. I'll just say multiply. The D means to divide. The A means add. And the S means subtract. Okay? So this is PEMDAS. So P-E-M-D-A-S, PEMDAS. All right. So you can use this little rubric to remember, or a mnemonic rather. This is called a mnemonic, where you're taking letters and you're taking the first letter and to create some funny word that you can remember. So it's a mnemonic. And you use that mnemonic to remember what order you're going to start with. All right. So parentheses. Well, we have a parentheses here. It's the 1.9 is in parentheses, but there's nothing else there. There's nothing else to do to the 1.9 inside the parentheses. So we just ignore parentheses and we go on to exponents. Well, the only exponents that really would apply here is each one of these numbers is to the power of 1. But anything to the power of 1, it stays the same value. So it doesn't change anything. So we just want to leave exponents alone as well. That takes us to multiplication. Here we do have multiplication here. Negative 6.8 is multiplied to 1.9. Good. So we want to multiply these together. So that's the first thing we're going to do. And then we would divide, but we don't have any division going here after that. And then after that we would add. And in this case we would add 5. So let's go ahead and do the multiplication. And for that we're going to use a calculator. All right. So why am I using a calculator? For the same reason that I don't do math in my head when I'm working online, because I'm more apt to make a mistake. I don't want to do that. So I'm going to try to instead use this. All right, so let me turn this on. So where do you turn it on? This is a graphing calculator for those who have not used it, and I think most of you have. We aren't going to use the graphing part of it. We're just going to use the regular operations parts of it, order of operations part. So we're going to turn it on. We turn it on down at the bottom left corner. And I'm going to clear it and everything here. And that's going to leave me with a little, you see that blinking rectangle there? That's where my work is going to be done. Now I'm going to take negative 6.8 and input that. Now, the negative sign in negative 6.8 here, that negative sign is not an operation sign. In other words, it's not a subtraction sign. So it just tells us that this is a negative number. And the graphing calculator also makes that distinction. So down here at the very bottom, let me push this up just a little bit more. See if we can wake this up. There we go. You can see that there is a button here with a negative sign on it. That is the first one we're going to hit. I'm going to pull this down just a little bit so that we can see the top here somewhat. Okay, so I'm going to click that, and you can probably see up here that there's a little negative sign in front of the blinking rectangle. Now I'm going to type in 6.8, so 6.8, and then I'm going to hit enter in the enter button. If that was all I was going to do, but I'm going to multiply negative 6.8 times 1.9. So let's use the multiplication button over here. So negative 6.8 is in times, and then 1.9. So I'm going to type in 1.9. Now I'm ready to enter, which will give me what the answer is for that particular multiplication problem. And as you should be able to see here, that is negative 12.92, which is what is down here too. Let me see if I can bring this over a little bit and you can see it better. Okay, there it is, negative 12.92. All right, and then the next thing we're going to do is we're going to add 5 to it. So to do that, all we do is go to the addition button, click it, and it'll say answer plus up here now. So that means that negative 12.92 is the answer plus, and then we click 5 and we hit enter and we get negative 7.92, and that's the answer that we want to have here. Okay. All right, so that's how we use this. I'm only going to quickly tell you one more thing on this. Some people are going to ask, well, hey, these numbers I've got here, these are decimal numbers. They aren't integers. They aren't counting numbers. They're you know, a decimal is a fraction in essence. 0.8 is 8/10. 0.9 is 9/10. You can't be telling me that this is an integer. These aren't integers. What's going on? All right, so let me, for those of you who are wondering about that, show you something on the calculator that will rest your mind. So let's take negative 6.8. Let's type that in. So I'm going to go back down here, click the negative sign, and then I'm going to put in 6.8. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go up to a button up here on the upper left corner. It says Math. Do you see that? Math. Click that button. And when you do that, you get the screen with a bunch of commands. And you'll see that the first one says frac. Frac means it's a shorthand word for fraction. Click enter. And so what it's going to do is it's going to convert negative 6.8 into a fraction. Wow, how can you do that? Well, graphing calculators are magical things. You can. Hit enter. Aha. So now what are we seeing here? We're seeing negative 34 divided by 5. So in other words, negative 6.8, which is a fraction, it's this fraction, makes this number a rational number, which is composed of two other numbers which are integers. They are themselves not fractions. Negative 34 is not a fraction. 5 is not a fraction. But when you take negative 34 and you divide it by 5, that's a fraction. That's a rational number. So that's what makes negative 6.8 and 1.9 a rational number. Okay? All right, so mystery solved. You're done. Please complete your reflection. Make sure you upload it, and then go to your IXL assignment because you still owe me that. That's where you're going to do the online work, and you're going to use your little plastic sheet to do the problems by hand. Take care. We'll see you later. Thank you. Bye-bye.